Hi, today we are learning about standard form. So we're working still with linear equations, and what I have for you right here is a warm-up. And so what I want you to do is copy these down, find the answers, pause it, and then when you come back, I'll have the answers. Okay, hopefully you paused it. Here are the answers. And if you need to look at my work, you may do so, but I tried to circle them. You can pause it if you want to, so you can see my work, but I did change in Y over change in X for in the table form, as in 2 points, and then also if it's in slope-intercept form. Okay, standard form now looks like AX plus BY equals C. And sometimes, like in pre-calc, we have them where the C is on the same side as the A and the B. A and B are not supposed to be fractions. They're supposed to be integers. And the very first one is always supposed to be a positive integer. Helpful hints. So if your equation is given in standard form, it's usually easier to graph the x and y intercepts. Or you can use algebra. A lot of kids do this, where you use algebra and change it back into the slope-intercept form or the y equals mx plus b form, and they do it that way. But it kind of depends on what all the numbers are. So that's what we're going to do a couple examples here. So this first example, standard form, is 2x plus 3y equals 12. So what I'm going to suggest is that you find the intercepts. What that means is when you find the intercepts, I have like a little table here. Usually what I do is I go and I plug in a 0 for my x, a 0 for my y. So then that's how I find the x-intercept, and this is how I find the y-intercept. So if you look at the equation, what we're really doing is if we let this equal 0 instead, that whole second part, and you know anything times 0 is 0, so we really just have this, which is that 3y equals 12. And then you divide both sides by 3, and you get your y equals 4. So if I plug 0 in for x, in my page it looks like it moved a smidge. If I plug 0 in for x, then my y is 4. And then if I do the same I substitute y, 0 in for y, then I get, oops. So then I'm only going to have 2x equals 12. And if 2x equals 12, divide both sides by 2, and then I get x equals 6. So our two intercepts are 0, 4. So 0, 4, that's the y-intercept, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then the x-intercept is 6, 0. Okay, and then there's our line. And you can see by the equation here that, so here what's tricky too is notice this has a negative slope, but when you look at the equation, you don't see that negative slope because everything is positive up there. So be careful with that. The next example, we have 3x minus 5y equals 30. So we're going to do the same thing like what we did before. Is I'm going to change the 0x into 0. And then I'm going to change the y into 0. So then I really have here negative 5y equals 30. And so my y, divide both sides by negative 5, I get a negative 6. So my y-intercept will be 0, negative 6. And then my x-intercept, I plug 0 in for y. I'm left with 3x equals 30. So my x equals 10. So it's 10 and 0. So when I go to plot these two, I have 10 for my x-intercept. And then I have negative 6 for my y. And then you connect them. Okay, there's one more example because sometimes, so these are always supposed to be integers, and this first one is always supposed to be, excuse me, positive. But sometimes the equations aren't written that way, and you have to convert them into where it is the correct standard form. So if you have something that has a fraction, it's kind of like when we were solving, when we had a fraction in the equation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to double everything so that I can get rid of that fraction in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my parentheses and I'm going to multiply everything by 2 and distribute to each term. So then my new equation will be 2x, and then you'll have a minus 2 times 1/2 is 1y, and then 2 times 3 is 6. So that's our equation. And I don't know if you've seen the pattern yet, and hopefully it's not too early, but whenever you go and substitute the x in, usually what I do is I cover up this term here. Since I'm plugging 0 in for my x, I'm left just with what's left with y, which is a negative y equals 6. So my y equals a negative 6. If I'm substituting y, 0 in for y, then this term is gone. So I'm really just left with 2x equals 6. And so then my x equals 3. So my x-intercept is 3, 0. So when you go to plot them, I can plot those two. So I have 3, 0 as my x-intercept, negative 0 and negative 6 as my y-intercept, and then I can connect them. So that's how you do it, just in case your formula does have a fraction in it. Okay. The last part of the assignment for today also talks about just having, you have to classify your equations. And I do want to mention one thing. When we do classify these, please remember what the slope will look like for each of these, because some kids got it on that activity from last week, and some kids not. So it just will help reinforce it. So the assignment has where you either put a V for a vertical line, an H for a horizontal line, or O for oblique, or some kind of a diagonal. It just has a slope on it. It's just not one of these other two. Remember that all vertical lines, this right here is actually a vertical line, and that equation is always an x equals equation, and there's no y in there. A horizontal line, like this one, is always a y equals, and it doesn't have any x's in it. It doesn't intersect. It's parallel actually with the x-axis, just like this one's parallel with the y. A vertical line, this line right here, has a slope that is undefined. And so this one, if you think that would be a steep hill to climb or to walk on, that the slope is undefined, and a horizontal line that's nice and easy, that always has a slope of 0. Okay? So if your equations are given like the ones down below, what I would do is you can solve for this. This is really just going to be x equals a -3. That's going to be, x equals is a vertical line. So you're going to put V or vertical on your paper or on Kami, whatever. If you have 5x equals 4y, notice we have a variable on each side. If I divide both sides by 4, I would be left with y equals 5x over 4. This would have a y-intercept of 0, and this would be an oblique line, O for oblique. The next equation here, I would really just add 9 to both sides. So you would have y equals 13 instead. That's a y equals. And remember, a y equals is a horizontal line. So you would say H for horizontal, or right type horizontal. And then the last equation, you'll notice we have variables on both sides. This is really practicing our distributive property. So here we would have 6x minus 12 plus 4 equals 3x plus 2, or oops, even I forgot right here, plus 6. And then we'll combine like terms. And so I really have on the left-hand side 6x minus 8 equals 3x plus 6. I'll add 8 to both sides. And then I'm going to subtract 3x from both sides. So I'll have 3x on the left, and then I'll have 14 on the right. Divide both sides by 3, and you'll notice I just have an x variable here. So everything got simplified to 14 over 3, and that's an x only. And that will be a vertical line. So V for vertical. Okay, so hopefully that helps you get the assignment and you can do your homework for today. Okay, bye.